Hello and welcome to The Real Beef. I'm Don Keith. Well, I have to say I'm super excited to have my guest on today, as I have been following him for about 25 years now. He's the man behind viral clips on TikTok and Instagram using biblical creation to absolutely demolish evolution theory. He is Dr. Kent Hovind, a former high school science teacher with a doctorate in Christian education. He's one of the world's best-known defenders of young Earth creationism. He's the founder of Creation Science Evangelism, creator of the famous 7-part creation seminar series, and the man behind the Hovind theory of the global flood. Dr. Hovind teaches that the Earth is roughly 6,000 years old, that humans and dinosaurs live together, and that the Bible, taken literally from Genesis 1, is the ultimate authority over every claim of mainstream science. He's also the driving force behind Dinosaur Adventureland in Alabama, where families come to see the evidence for themselves. So with that, I'm going to bring Dr. Hovind on. Dr. Hovind, how are you, sir?
I am overworked and underpaid, but I never complain about it, ever.
Well, I tell you what, you crack me up. I watch some of your videos and some of your jokes. They really get me, but I'm so excited to have you on today. Like I said, I've been following you for a long time. I really appreciate you taking the time with me here.
Well, you're not the only one following me. So is the KGB, the IRS, the FBI, the NAFO. They're all, they hate me, brother.
I've heard. Well, I love you, man. So I really love your stuff and everything you do. And I really appreciate you as a Christian and the scientist that you are, a biblical scientist. I guess we could get started here. You believe, you take the Bible literally. You believe the Word is the inspiration of God, right? You believe that it's the inspired Word of God, right?
Sure.
Let me ask you, as a Christian, I think a lot of Christians have questions about the Bible, especially those of us who are educated. And we know a little something about evolution that we've heard over years, and we sort of compare the two and say, well, how is this possible when we read something in the Bible? How can both of these things be true at the same time? So if it's okay, I'd like to ask you some questions from that point of view as a Christian, and also ask you some questions that you may get from someone you may be debating that may be more astute in evolution science, or an atheist or someone like that.
Go ahead. There's no such thing as evolution. No such thing as evolution. Science. Evolution is a religion. Science is what we know. We do not know that cows and bananas are related. You can believe that, but that's not science.
No, I agree totally. But I'd first like to ask you, as far as the Bible goes, how do we as Christians know which particular Bible to study, or do you subscribe to all the different versions of the Bible? For instance, say the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Masoretic text, the Septuagint. How do we know as Christians which of those books? Because the King James version sort of is derived from the Masoretic text, and it leaves out 12 of the books of the Bible that you might find in the Samaritan Pentateuch. So do you sort of combine all those to get your theology, or do you just subscribe to one of those?
I give a long answer to that question on video number 7. My seminar series you mentioned earlier, 18 hours. You can get it for $50 on drdino.com. Video number 7, question answer. I explained why the King James is the place where God preserved his word. The other books are not left out. They were added hundreds of years later. They're all post-Christian. They're not Christian. They're heretical books. We covered those a couple nights ago. We're on about 8 different channels. They're all listed on drdino.com. DRDINO. Joseph, can you put a link up where I answered that just in the last week about what about the Apocrypha was the title? Mm-hmm. It's not, does not belong in the Bible. It's the book, First and 2nd Maccabees and Canticle of Canticles.
That's Catholic, right? The Catholic is the Apocrypha.
It was added to the Bible to get some of their crazy teachings to make people think, oh, wow, the Bible says that. No, it does not. Mm-hmm. So I would very strongly, I believe God preserved his words in the King James Bible. I think it's flawless with no mistakes.
Okay. So evolution believes there was a Big Bang theory, right? We believe that the Earth was 6,000, 6,500. What do you think exactly in years? Is it 6,000 or 6,500 years old?
6,000. If you add up the dates, the Bible says Adam was 130 when his son was born. Read Genesis 5. All the dates are given in there. Mm-hmm. Adam's 130. His son is 105 when his boy was born. I made this chart you can get on our website, Dr. Dino. Use them for placemats when your skeptic friends come for lunch. Yeah. But then the flood came. After the flood, you go to Genesis 11, and it picks up with some more numbers. And it tells how old they were. But after the flood, they're only living to be 400, then 200, then 100. Something changed at that flood. Before the flood, they're living to be 900. Anyway, if you add up all the dates down to Joseph, and we know Joseph was the vice pharaoh of Egypt, so they have historical evidence from Joseph on, it comes to about 6,000 for the age of the earth, 4,000 BC.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. 4,004 BC. I think.
Right. So if the earth is 6,000 years old, or 6,000 years old, I think some creationists believe, because of discrepancies in calendars and things like that, it could be up to 10,000 years old. But if you believe the earth is 6,000 years old, how do you explain radiometric dating methods? I know kind of the flaws behind carbon dating that's good for only like 60,000 years according to science. But what about things like uranium to lead dating that is most commonly used to date dinosaur fossils and things like that you're very familiar with? How do you explain those away?
Right, that's what they want you to believe. There are about 5 or 6, I would say, potassium, argon, uranium to lead, uranium-238, lead-206 to 208 to carbon-14, carbon-13 dating. Mm-hmm. All of the dating methods are based on some very obvious assumptions. How much was in it when it died? Mm-hmm. Has it always decayed at the same rate? Has there been no contamination? Right. You can't know any of those things. In a court of law, none of the dates would hold up as proof of anything. So there's lots of articles about that topic on ICR.org, for instance, Institute for Creation Research, or Answers in Genesis has great articles on that stuff. My video number 7 goes through probably 45 minutes about the carbon dating. See, the Bible says in 2 Peter chapter 3 that the scoffers at the end of time, which is probably now, would be willingly ignorant of the creation and the flood and the coming judgment of God. What was that original creation like? Why on earth did they live to be 900 years old? Why are there legends all over the world about a golden age when man used to live to be 1,000? Just type in golden age. There's lots of legends about that from countries that aren't Christian. Mm-hmm. Don't know anything about the Bible, but they say, oh yeah, man used to live to be 1,000. Well, 900 is 969 from Methuselah is the oldest. But why would there be legends like that? Well, the original creation, when God made the world, it says there was water above the firmament. And it tells us the firmament is where the birds fly, all in Genesis chapter 1 and 2. So there used to be a layer of ice, I think, 2 or 3 fingers thick, according to the Jews. There was a 3-finger thick, a couple-inch thick layer of ice surrounding the whole planet. Mm-hmm. Right now, the air that we're breathing is about 50 miles thick. The space shuttle has to go out about 50 miles to get away from all friction with the air around the Earth. If you took all the air, squeezed it down to 10 miles, and then put a crystal canopy around everything, big glass ball, okay, 2 or 3 inches thick, that would increase air pressure at the surface, making breathing easier, making bigger animals able to fly. Why did they find 50-foot wingspan pterodactyls? They could not possibly fly in today's air. The air is too thin. Mm-hmm. If you climb Mount Everest, you only go up 5 miles, and you can't breathe. You got to carry oxygen with you, okay? Right. It's only 5 miles. So if you squeezed all the air down to 10 miles, it would probably double atmospheric pressure. When they drill into amber, which is petrified tree sap, they quite frequently find air bubbles in there. Maybe you saw the movie Jurassic Park where they got the mosquito blood out, Well, they do have insects in amber. We got some in our museum here in Lenox, Alabama. But the air bubbles found in amber have 50% more oxygen than we're breathing today. What we're breathing is 21% oxygen. The amber bubbles have 35% oxygen. If you had increased oxygen and increased air pressure, it would change a bunch of things, okay? That crystal canopy overhead, the Earth, would block out ultraviolet light. A couple inches of ice would stop.
About that crystal canopy, I know some have described it as water or a water vapor too. One of the things you often see the evolution people come back with is if there had been a water canopy or something like that over the Earth, then it would have actually cooked Earth, I guess because of the magnification of the rays of the sun or something like that. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard him say the flood, the rain would cook the Earth, which is crazy. I can explain all that if you'd like. But a couple inches of ice, super cold ice, when you get ice down to 450 below 0 Fahrenheit, almost absolute zero, it becomes magnetic. You can Google magnetic ice. They've known about this for decades, okay? I believe the crystal canopy over the Earth was held up by 2 things. One is magnetic field of the Earth. It was levitated. Secondly, by simple air pressure, like a big inflatable building. As long as there's no cracks in it, you get a solid ice shield around, it's going to hold itself up. That ice would block out UV light, and UV light is what causes the creation of carbon-14. Nitrogen gets blasted by radiation and turns into carbon-14. It hooks onto oxygen molecules, becomes
That's in situ. In situ production you're talking about, right? In situ.
Well,
IN-SITU. And that
yeah, I know what in situ is, but
okay.
The radiation from the sun hits the nitrogen and changes it to carbon-14. Normally, carbon is atomic number 12.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon-14 is nitrogen that's been converted to carbon, and it connects to oxygen, becomes carbon dioxide. The plants breathe it and make it part of their body, like they do today with carbon dioxide. Mm. So a tiny, tiny fraction, 0.0000765% of the atmosphere we're breathing is radioactive carbon-14. Mm. So very, very, very tiny amount. Well, we don't absorb it into our bodies, but the plants do. So the plants become slightly radioactive because of this carbon-14 they're in getting through their spiracles. Animals come along and eat the plants, so they get it into their body. I'd be willing to bet $5 sometime during your lifetime you've either eaten some plants or you've eaten some animals that have eaten some plants. So yeah. That's probably my meal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we all have a tiny bit of carbon-14 in our body. Mm-hmm. The theory is that what we have in us matches what's in the atmosphere. 0.0000765%. That's reasonable. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you dig up a fossil and you date it's only got half as much, it's been through one half-life. Well, it takes about, we're going to call it 6,000 years, 5,730 years. Okay. It takes about 6,000 years for half of the carbon-14 to decay with radioactive decay. And if you have a Geiger counter, you can hear it, click, 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 like the movies, Geiger counter. Mm-hmm. It's radioactive. So if you're getting only half the amount that we have today in the air, you would say, wow, that's been dead for 6,000 years. If you're only getting 1/4 of that amount, it'd be, wow, it's been dead for 12,000 years. Each half-life is another 5,730 years. Mm-hmm. So that's all assuming that they started with what we have today in our atmosphere. If it had a canopy overhead, a crystal canopy, that would block out UV light. The animals and plants living under that canopy would probably have very, very little carbon-14. Mm-hmm. So you're starting with the wrong number to date them. They're going to look like they're 50,000 years old when they're only 4,500.
Right,
so
right.
They can't tell the initial content of the object dated. They can't tell the decay rate's been the same. We know the solar sunspot cycle, putting out sunspots and stuff, solar flares and things, greatly affects radioactive decay here on Earth. So as I've said, I don't think any radioactive decay, any of them, lead-208, lead-206, uranium-235, uranium-238, none of those would count as evidence in a court of law, because an intelligent lawyer would say, look, you don't know how much was in it when it started. You can't prove this decay rate's always been the same. We know there are things that affect it, and you can't prove it's never been contaminated. There's no reason to say carbon-14 or any of those dating methods proves the Bible wrong.
Well, God said if anything, if the fossils are millions of years old and the minerals are millions of years old, based on the degradation, the rate of degradation or decay of the carbon-14 molecule, there shouldn't be any carbon-14 at all in these layers around these fossils. Isn't that correct? And I think the way science sort of gets around that is they use that in situ production to say, oh no, these are new carbon-14 atoms. To say that's why there's carbon-14 in these fossils. But if that's the case, then how do you know when they got into the fossils to begin with? They actually date the dinosaur fossils correctly. So it's kind of circular reasoning on their part and makes no sense if you ask me. I got
quite a few quotes I can show you where they say it's been impossible to find something that doesn't have diamonds, which are supposed to be, that can't be contaminated. Well, they always find carbon-14. Mm-hmm. The problem they're coming up with is, again, they're assuming today's carbon-14 is the same as it's always been. When they first invented carbon dating in 1950, Willard Libby at the University of Chicago invented it. He said, well, if the radiation is creating this stuff and then it's decaying, falling apart, how long would it take the atmosphere to reach equilibrium? If you took a brand new planet Earth, make a brand new Earth, stick it out going around the sun with the atmosphere over it, it's going to create carbon-14 and it's going to start decaying. Can you put this slide up, Joseph? This answers it really well. If I told you to fill a barrel with water, okay? But can you get that? There you go. If I said, I want you to fill this barrel with water, but I've drilled holes on the other side and it's leaking out. And the more you put in, the more holes it leaks out of. Eventually you reach a stage called equilibrium. Mm-hmm. You can't fill the barrel past that point. It's leaking as fast as it's coming in, okay? Mm-hmm. So the assumption they work on is that carbon-14 has reached equilibrium. When they studied this back in the 50s, they said, well, it would take about 30,000 years to reach equilibrium. Okay, well, the atmosphere has still not reached equilibrium. If we still haven't reached equilibrium, then you can't carbon date anything. They say, we know the Earth is millions of years old. You don't know that, okay? They say, well, we can ignore the equilibrium problem. No, you can't. We've still not reached equilibrium. Radiocarbon is forming faster than it's decaying. Well, hello, that means you don't know what was in it when it died. It's absolutely crazy to believe any of those dating methods is going to create a number that's reliable.
Right. No, that makes sense.
I covered this for 30 minutes on video number 7. By the way, brother, when I first started my ministry 35 years ago, I used to loan out my videos. I'd loan them to people. I learned right away Christians don't steal, but they borrow and never return. So you can buy it for $50. When you're done, send it back, get your money back. You can make copies and then send it back, get your money back. We just want to get the gospel out.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that.
I want to loan them. Now, if you're not a Christian, I might loan it to you because you go to hell if you didn't give it back,
Oh, man, that's funny. Well, let's talk about some more dating methods. Ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica show there's over 700 to 800,000 annual layers. So how would that fit into a young Earth timeline, even with a global flood?
Well, the obvious problem there is you're assuming they're annual layers. On my video number 1 of my series, I go through about 40 or 50 different ways to prove the Earth cannot be billions of years old. One of the topics I discuss is the ice core dating. We have absolute verifiable proof. During World War II, a squadron of airplanes, P-50 or P-38, I forget, they flew over to England to join the war, got hit in a storm, had to turn around, tried to come back, and they ran out of gas over Greenland. So all the airplanes crash landed in Greenland. Everybody survived. They got the guys off, but left the planes there. Okay. Then a guy from Kentucky said, hey, there's brand new World War II airplanes on the ice in Greenland. It's called the Lost Squadron. They're now they melted a hole down, 2 holes, and cut the middle out. Anyway, they took one of the airplanes apart. It was 263 feet below the surface. This airplane's 263 feet down. I think it's video number 1. I can't get it to call up here. Anyway, yeah, I can't see it though. Anyway, watch my video number 1. I talked to the guy who dug the airplane out. His name is Bob Cardin. He's up in Kentucky at the Lost Squadron. There's some airport up there in Kentucky, in Middleborough, Kentucky. I called him. I said, Bob, that's not on that one, brother. Never mind. I have to get. I called Bob. I went up there. I went there and talked to him. I said, Bob, you drilled the holes down and got the airplane out and took them out, right? He said, yeah. So the airplanes had been there for 48 years. He said, yep. I said, how many layers were there above the airplane? Layers of ice. See, it's the layers. It looks like a tree ring. It's dark and then light, dark, light. He said, well, in the summertime, the snow melts a little bit and it refreezes as clear ice. In the wintertime, it just packs, and it becomes white ice. So you get a layer. The theory is you would get white ice layer for winter, clear ice layer for summer. I said, Bob, how many layers were there above the airplane? He said, there were many hundreds.
Hundreds.
How do you get many hundreds of layers, of annual layers in 48 years? He said, who told you they're not annual layers. It's warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. It's not summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter. You can get 5 of those layers in 2 days. You have a warm spot, cold spot, warm spot, cold spot. They're not annual layers. The Lost Squadron had I think he said hundreds of layers above the airplanes, and they were only there for 48 years.
Wow.
I covered that. I show all the documentation. I can't find my slides right now on that. But on video number 1, we have about 50,000 slides in my presentation, brother. So it helps if you ask the question. Ask the questions in the same order. I've got the answers.
Yeah.
But no, you can't count. Don't count. Core dating does not prove anything for the age of the Earth.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. One more question on dating methods, and then we'll move on to a different topic. Scientists tell us that we see light from galaxies billions of light years away. So how do you explain that if the Earth, if the universe has billions of light years in it, how does that happen if the Earth is only 6,000 years old?
Well, I covered that again on video number 7 for a half hour. That question takes a while.
I had a feeling you're going to cover that on a video.
How do we know the distance to those stars? We cannot measure the distance. They're guesswork based upon things that are really questionable, and I cover all the answers. They started off, if I told you how far away is that wall in front of you, your eyes kind of, if you focus on a dot on the wall, your eyes, toe in a little bit, and your brain does all the mathematics. Let's see, I'm tilted in 1/10 of 1 degree, so that's probably, distance here is 4 inches, so that's probably 25 feet away. Okay, we can do that with close distances. Well, if you're looking at a star, and from a single telescope, all you see is a dot. You have to get 2 telescopes. If I had 2 astronomers that were, the furthest you can get away from anybody on Earth is 8,000 miles. That's the diameter of the Earth. So if somebody on one side is looking at the star, somebody on the other side is looking at the star. They now have 2 observation points. They're 8,000 miles apart. And they're looking at the star, and can they calculate their angle? Mm-hmm. Well, I think it gets pretty shaky right there, even measuring a few dozen light years. So they got a bigger circle by getting Earth's orbit around the sun. Let's look at the star in January and look at the star in June. Now they have 2 observation points that are 2 astronomical units apart, the Earth's orbit. But even that's it takes the sunlight to get from the sun to the Earth 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. So the diameter of our orbit is 16 light minutes. Okay? Mm-hmm. Well, I think I've got that here on video number 7, Joseph. Yeah, I do. Okay. Let me see about starlight here. I use lots of visuals. I taught high school 15 years. Let's see. Is that on here? Stars. Here we go. Stars. Okay. How do we see stars billions of light years away? There. Here's the problem, the real serious problems. Okay, let's see. How many stars in the galaxy? Let's see. Origin of stars. Yeah, I taught trigonometry also, and so I'll explain it to you here. If you want to measure the distance to something you cannot possibly touch, okay, like a star out there, you have to have 2 observation points and make a triangle out of it, and use simple trigonometry, cosine, tangent, okay? Well, what's this distance? I don't know. But I can't know the distance between my 2 observation points. Your eyes do this automatically. When you look at an object, you'd learn by experience to kind of guesstimate. Exactly, your eye is not a ball. It's not a perfect ball. It's got a little bump on the back. And that triggers the nerve to say, oh, my eye has moved over a little bit, and that's probably 21 feet over to that wall, okay? Called parallax trigonometry. Earth's diameter is 8,000 miles. Well, this from the sun to the Earth is 93 million miles, which is 8 light minutes. So the diameter of our orbit is 16 light minutes. 1 light year, 1 year, has 525,000 minutes in it. Mm-hmm. Let's translate all this into inches instead of how many light minutes. Let's say it's 16 inches across Earth's orbit. Okay. Mm-hmm. 1 light year would be 525,948 inches away. That's 8 miles. If you had 2 guys 16 inches apart with their telescopes looking at a dot 8 miles away, could they tell you it's 8 miles away? And all they know is the angle of declination from parallel. And I don't think you can tell exactly where you were, 6 months ago. I don't think that's a little stretch, but I'll give them that. That's how you measure 1 light year. Mm-hmm. It has an angle of 0.017 out there at the apex. To measure 100 light years, ludicrous. You can't do it. If you had 2 guys 16 inches apart in Pensacola looking at a dot in Chicago, 830 miles away, could they tell you the distance accurately? And all they know is they're 16 inches apart. Mm-hmm. That's the only ring they know for sure. And even that with the Earth's orbit, I don't think they know that for sure, but let's give them that, okay? No, it can't be done. So they try to measure stars otherwise. Parallax can measure less than 100 light years, they say. I think it's way less than 100, but I'll give them 100. Wow. We simply don't know the distance to the stars. They probably are billions of light years away. I wouldn't question that. But we can't measure it. We should humble ourselves. How far away is that star? I think it's a stretch. You can say, I cover this with all the documentation. You can read it for yourself. But
so if they're billions of years away, then how is the universe only 6,000 years old?
Well, this is you're also assuming that the speed of light has remained constant. They know they can speed light up and slow light down. It's been done in the laboratory. I've got all that documentation on that. But the biggest thing is, here's things to consider. We can't measure those distances. Okay? Nobody knows what light is. Give me a jar of it. What's a gallon of light weigh? Nobody knows. Okay? And so they slowed light down to 38 miles an hour at Harvard. This was back 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. They slowed it down to 1 mile an hour, and they brought it to a dead stop. But what exactly is light? They speeded it up to 300 times the speed of light. Okay? And there's all documentation on this. So anyway, the other big factor, though, is it says in the Bible 17 times that God stretched out the heavens. Let's see, faster than the speed of light. Let me get up here. Yeah, watch video number 7. You can see a lot of this on my website. Go to drdino.com, and it gives all the channels we're on. They took us off of YouTube about 5 times. Finally, we gave up. So we're on Rumble and Twitter and Facebook and everything else.
Yeah, YouTube's not very favorable to conservatives.
No.
I've got that myself, so I understand where you're coming from there.
Everybody's asking, how did the light get here from the star? They're asking the wrong question. The Bible says God stretched out the heavens. 17 times it says he stretched out the heavens. He made the earth on day 1. He made the stars on day 4. Then he stretched them out into place. They could be billions of light years away and only be 6,000 years old. He could have put them out there yesterday with the light already coming. If they're stretched out, we would see a red shift. It looks like that's the whole thing. Well, it's the Doppler effect. It looks like the stars are retreating. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That proves they're billions of years old. No, that proves God stretched them out. And you see a red shift. They could have been made 6,000 years ago, stretched out into place. And we see red shifts in all directions. Does that mean they all came from the earth? Well, that would be what the Bible says. He made the earth, then he made the stars and stretched them out to place. So I don't think we should worry about that.
You said that it's kind of brought something up that I was curious about. God created the sun, but the days before that, there was morning and evening. How was there morning and evening without the sun?
God himself is light. I think he made the earth spinning in relation to apparently maybe him or something. But you can still have morning and evening without, the sun could disappear and we still have 24 hours in our day. So I think God made the sun later in the creation purposely so we would know, don't worship it. Many cultures around the world worship the sun. Aaron Ra, the atheist, calls himself the sun god. Aaron Nelson. You don't worship the sun. It's great. We got to have it. I'm glad it's up there, but it's not God. God created the sun, I think, purposely later so that we would not worship it. We should worship him. Right.
Those are all great explanations. They really are. Let's talk about something that you're famous for. Let's talk about the Noah's Ark and the dinosaurs. That's an interesting topic. I think everyone likes. So God created the heavens and the earth, created Adam and Eve, and then we have the lineages of Adam and Eve up to the time of Noah. There was a great flood.
Right.
One of the things I'm curious about, if there was a great flood, why do we still have a record of pharaohs and Egyptian and Chinese dynasties with an unbroken record of kings and things like that that if there was a global flood, we should have seen a break there between, say, Pepi II, who was the pharaoh during the year of the flood, and he was immediately had a successor behind him, and he had a successor behind him. So how do we explain that away when we're talking about creation science?
I think if you look at anything Egyptian, they obviously exaggerated the importance of their pharaoh. This guy is the greatest guy that ever lived. They built these huge temples and everything else. They wanted to think he was God. There's a Corville, I think, did the research on that. There's a book called The Evolution Cruncher. It's about 1,000-page book. Do we sell that, Joseph? We used to. The Evolution Handbook. We have that? You have. I have one, yeah. Anyway, it's 1,000-page book. He goes through about 50 pages of the problems with the Egyptian dynasty, the sequencing. They go back 4,500 years, not beyond that. Okay. So that's a more technical answer than I am ready for here right now. But
right. So the hieroglyphs are wrong then, because I know they have about an extra 3,000 years on them for their lineages older than the flood is.
There's all that in the book, the Evolution Handbook. We're trying to find my library's right here with 4,000 books in it. So Joseph,
we don't have time to read all those tonight.
Well, they used to call it the Evolution Cruncher. They changed it to Evolution Handbook. You can get it from the publisher here, evolutionfacts.inc. Or Evolution Facts. Vance Ferrell, Ferrell. You can probably find the book online. Okay. We've got a whole section about the Egyptian dynasties. They're greatly exaggerated. And nothing to fear for the Christians. Okay. So when Noah, I know a lot of people go, how did he get all those dinosaurs on the ark? How did he get all the dinosaurs? I know we talk about the difference between kinds and species. I've heard you talking about that, but if you could explain it, it'd be great. Were they eggs or were they juveniles? Well, if you bring eggs, you'd have a problem knowing is it male or female. Right. I guess there are ways to tell chicken eggs. They put a light behind them and tell if it's something. Maybe it's male, but the Bible says the flood came about 4,500 years after the creation. Noah was 600 years old when he went on the boat. Okay. His daddy could have known Adam. I mean, these people lived a long time back here. Okay. So the knowledge they had would be incredible. At 600, I bet Noah was smart enough to know You don't have to bring the big ones. Bring babies of everything.
Right.
And he brought 2 of each kind, not 2 of every individual variety or species. There are now 339 recognized breeds of dog. Noah didn't have a Chihuahua on the ark. Probably never saw a Chihuahua in his life, okay? They bring a generic dog. From the dog kind, you could get the wolf, the coyote, the dingo, the dog, the domesticated dog. They all have probably had a common ancestor, and it looked like a dog. There's a website called baraminology.com. Baramin, Barimen, is the Hebrew word for kind. Baraminology.com. They say they've been studying this for years and doing all the research. They say there's about 8,000 kinds of animals on land. Noah did not have to bring the fish on the ark. They had plenty of water outside, okay? He didn't have to bring insects. If you read the story, God told him to bring those in whose nostrils is the breath of life. Insects don't have nostrils. They breathe through their skin. And insects can survive a flood just fine. On the floating debris, floating log mats, dead bodies. Go any place where there's been a flood. When the water goes down, walk out in the mud. Tell me the first thing you notice. Bugs by the zillions, okay? So Noah had to bring air-breathing, land-dwelling animals on the ark. That narrows it down to, according to baraminology, about 8,000 pairs of animals, plus 7 of the clean ones. Noah would be smart enough to why would you bring the big elephants? Bring babies. It's common sense. They're smaller. They eat less. They poop less. They sleep a lot more. And there's all kinds of things. Joseph did a chart on this about, and some animals hibernate, some animals estivate. There's 7 different ones, Joseph?
Yes.
7 different types of, when they're not really confined, but when they don't need to be active, they got their food and water right there. They just kind of go into slow motion. 7 different methods.
Right.
So after the flood's over, these babies are going to live longer to produce more babies, and that's why you're bringing them. Why would you bring a big elephant on the ark? Dinosaurs, the word dinosaur means terrible lizard. Reptiles, like lizards, never stop growing. Never. Turtles, snakes, lizards never stop growing. If the reptile could live, a lizard could live to be 900 before the flood, that would be the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were simply big lizards. After the flood, we see lifespans dropped off to 400. That crystal canopy was gone. The air expanded out now to 50 miles. And so some of the bigger dinosaurs probably could not survive long enough to even reach maturity. They may have died off from, we'll call it climate change. Hate to give that any credit, but also people were hunting them. They called them dragons. I think most of the dinosaurs have been killed by man after the flood. And there's quite a few reports still alive of some smaller ones like Loch Ness Monster. 11,000.
Food scarce. Food was scarce, so they probably killed a lot of them off, ate them. Who knows?
Right. Who knows? Yeah.
What how many kinds do you think there would have been of dinosaurs would there have been on the ark? If you had to take a guess.
Google that, Joseph. How many kinds of dinosaurs are there? I'm picking a number here wildly. It's say 30 different kinds.
I see a number pretty regularly. 50 to 100 is what I think most creationists believe.
Babies.
Yeah. So I have a question about that. If we have, we currently have in the fossil record about 1,425 non-avian and non-aquatic dinosaur species from just a few kinds. In 4,300 years, we don't see that type of rapid speciation today. For example, if there were 100 kinds of dinosaurs on the ark, in order to arrive at the number of species we have in our fossil record today, they would have had to create 14 new species per decade to go from the 50 to 100 kinds and get 1,425 species today. So how would you explain that?
Yeah, Joseph just Googled it, and AI says there's 55 to 85 kinds of dinosaurs. Okay, basic kinds of dinosaurs.
Okay.
I had a family. I forget where I was preaching. This lady said in a Q&A session, she said, Brother Hovind, my family's been in the dog kennel business for 3 generations. We've been for 100 years breeding dogs to sell, Chihuahuas and Great Danes and all this kind of stuff. She said, I know, I can promise you, if you gave us 10 generic dogs, just pick any old generic mutt off the street, let us have them for 100 years. We can develop all 350 varieties of dogs in 100 years. So I think the word species is the problem, okay? There are 26 published definitions of the word species. Nobody knows exactly what a species is. The Bible says if they can bring forth after their kind, they're the same kind. Well, the question is, can they bring forth? A horse and a zebra can bring forth a baby. They're the same kind, 4-wheel drive, leather upholstery, biodegradable exhaust, okay? A dog and a wolf can interbreed. They normally don't in nature, but they can. A dog and a coyote can. A coyote and a wolf can. A coy wolf. They're derivatives of the same kind. So with man intervening with artificial selection, where the farmer decides, I want cows that give more milk. He selects those out, and after a few generations, he's got milk cows. If he says, no, I want to raise beef cows, he can select out those that have more beef. They can select some that live in cold weather better.
Right.
If you turned all the dogs in the world loose in Alaska, turn them all loose, the Chihuahuas wouldn't make it first winter. Okay. Come back in 10 years, the only dogs that survive are those that have thick fur, dense body, shorter legs. The long, skinny legs are harder to keep the heat in them, like a greyhound, okay? So the weather would select a certain body type to survive. That's called natural selection. It's not creating anything. It's selecting a type that's already there. So I think after the flood, you would have natural selection going on and artificial selection. The humans are deciding. They want to breed a dog that's better at hunting, or something that's faster to catch the prey. So they get a greyhound or something. So I think between those two, natural and artificial selection, you can easily account for all the species. But keep in mind, there's a much bigger picture here. Atheists like to say, how did you get all those species in a few hundred years? I say, for heaven's sake, you guys believe all the species came from a rock. Don't they?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, primordial ooze.
There was a big bang and the earth cooled down. It was a hot ball of rock for millions of years, and it rained on the rocks and cooled them off, and they finally made oceans of soup. And in the oceans, the first living organisms appeared. All right. They make fun of our theory because we can't give us rock solid proof of anything on that topic. But they believe they all came from a rock. The evolution, all the public school textbooks now are using this chart, or a chart just like it, saying that all the types of animals came from an amoeba. This is called stupid. This is a propaganda poster. This isn't science. I would agree there are hundreds of varieties of the dog kind, okay? I do not agree that the dog is related to the duck, which is what they have on here. I don't agree with that. That's not science.
Right.
If you believe that, you've been brainwashed. Okay, and I'll debate anybody. I've had 389 debates. I can't find any opponents. They're all running scared.
I'm going to try to find you one. Get him out of here. I'd like to moderate that. That'll be a bit.
I'll take on 5 at a time. I did a debate against 3. There were 3 atheists against me at the same time, and every and he asked me, where did God come from? My 2-minute answers got 950 million views.
Yeah,
we got a thunderstorm coming through here, brother. We might. Joseph, text Billy. Are all the Jeeps under roof? Okay. We took the roofs off of our Jeeps to be able to get tours. We have 4 Jeeps. We give tours of our dinosaur adventure. Come on down. It's free.
Yeah, I'd love to come. I'm in
Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah.
Come down in the winter.
I'll come for sure.
I need to warn you, though. We have well water. A lot of people don't know this. See, I taught biology 15 years. If you drink well water, your babies will be born naked. Is that okay? Okay.
That's a good one. Let me ask you this about when it comes to sedimentary layers. I know you talk about a lot about geostrata and all those kind of things. If all of the sedimentary layers sort of happened at once because of the flood, why don't we find different species in all of the layers? I mean, for instance, why aren't there we don't find like rabbits with velociraptors or anything like that? Well, why don't we find? Well, we only find separate.
Yeah. First, I don't think that's the truth. I think we find all kinds of layers, all kinds of creatures in different layers where the evolution says they shouldn't be. Secondly, how do they date the layer? This geologic column that they use, I've got a chart here on that thing. Right. Yeah. This was made up in 1830, the geologic column saying all the layers are different ages. This is flat stupid on its face. They say the top layer is younger. I say, guys, I got a simple question. If that dirt is younger than this dirt, where did this dirt come from? Where was it hanging out for 14.9 billion years? Every speck of dirt in the world is the same age. It has to be. They say, well, that's the age when it got put over on top. Oh, so if I shuffle a deck of cards, the top card becomes younger? This geologic column does not exist. It's baloney. They date the layers by the fossils they contain. If you find a dinosaur bone in a rock layer, they're going to automatically label it as dinosaur layers, Cretaceous or Jurassic or something like that. Okay. If you find birds in there, they're going to give it a different number. The layers are dated by the fossils, and the fossils are dated by the layers.
It's so circular. I was about to say, because they don't even date the fossils; they date the layers of rock around them. But then they determine the layers by the fossils found in it. So it makes absolutely no sense.
No sense at all. I covered that in video number 4. Lies in the textbooks. There is no geologic column. Doesn't exist. All over the world, petrified trees are found standing up, running through all the layers.
Mhm.
I can get pictures in a minute if I knew you were going to talk about that. I could, let's see. Yeah, I covered so many of these things in my presentation. Let's see.
Mhm.
Get the video series, $50 for the whole thing, and then you can. There we go. Okay, coming up. There. Oh, I can't poke the button, Joseph. I can't see it. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. There we go. Polystrata fossils. Poly meaning many, strata. All over the world, petrified trees are found standing up, connecting all the layers. How alone does a dead tree stand around in Michigan before it falls over? Why are they saying these layers are different ages? I mean, don't you think the tree would have rotted? At least the top would have rotted off. There's one in Yellowstone. Look, the layers all formed in 1 year. Every layer is a different tide. The moon pulling the water up and down, up and down. The moon made all these layers in 1 year, nearly all of them. Polystrata fossils. You can Google it. You find them all over the place. Petrified trees is the biggest one. Up here, a friend of mine's a manager of a big coal mine up in central Alabama. I'm in lower Alabama, in Lenox.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we find petrified trees all the time running through the coal seams and going up into different layers of rock. He sent me a bunch of pictures that they find them all the time. He said, we mine 2 seams of coal, the Mary Lee and the Blue Creek. He said, I can show you with sample A, B, C, D. You put it together. I mean, a freshman law student could say, excuse me, the Mary Lee Formation contains sample H.
Mm-hmm.
The Blue Creek contains sample A. Yeah. But they both go through this one. Well, then, hello. The layers extending through, this one goes through 2 seams of coal.
Yeah.
The layers all formed in 1 year. There is no geologic column. I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. I know that's the Bible for the atheist, and they get upset. When you mock the Muslims' holy book, they get mad and they want to cut your head off. If you mock the atheist holy book, the geologic column, they don't cut your head off, thankfully, but they get mad about it. Ian Juby's done a lot of research on that area up there. Petrified trees that are standing up. I'm sorry, there is no geologic column. It is baloney. Tell them I said so. Okay, I'll debate them all on this.
I've seen pictures of like modern tools embedded in rock that's supposed to be millions of years old as well, like a hammer, things like that, embedded in layers that were supposed to be millions of years old. You touched on this a little bit earlier when you talked about the crystal over where do you think totally I know that rose from the deep. I know about the firmament above. Where do you think all the water came from, and then where did it go? Well, how did it dry up? How did it just disappear?
Sure. I think the water came from several sources. The Bible says that it rained for 40 days, but the water kept coming up for 150 days. Read Genesis 6, 7, and 8. It says the fountains of the deep broke open. There used to be an enormous body of water in the crust of the earth. They published in the last 10 years findings from different scientists saying that there's still 10 oceans worth of water in the crust of the earth. 10 more oceans worth. When they got to the bottom of the ocean, in 1977, Jacques Cousteau discovered hot water vents shooting up into the bottom. They're called thermal vents. Tens of millions of them. Well, hold it. If there's hot water squirting up into the bottom of the ocean, where does it have to be coming from? Down lower than that. Like, duh, right? So I think there was water under the crust of the earth. The earth cracked up like an eggshell at the time of the flood. And we still have the crack lines today called fault lines, and some of them are still moving, earthquakes and volcanoes on the San Andreas Fault, Hayward Fault, etc. So I think the crust of the earth cracked. The water went shooting out fast enough with all the weight of the rock on top. It would launch things out it would launch rocks up and shatter the canopy. The crystal canopy would get shattered by the rocks flying up from the earth and the water flying up. So I'm going to have to pick a number. I don't know. The rain was probably 20% of the flood, and the water underneath was probably 80%. Maybe pick a new number if you don't like mine. But it wasn't. Then this crystal canopy overhead would, because supercold ice is magnetic, it would be sucked in and dumped around the North and South Pole. You'd have an instant ice age. And it's not a coincidence that the ice age, if you look at the maps of the ice age, it came clear down to southern Illinois. But over in Russia, it didn't go as far down. The ice age is centered around the magnetic North Pole, not the geographic North Pole. The magnetic North Pole is what attracted the ice. The ice got dumped on the North and South Pole around the magnetic poles. Okay, it went sliding out clear down to southern Illinois. Okay, it was probably snowing 10 feet a minute from this super cold ice being raining down on the earth that would bury animals standing up. They couldn't even fall over, and it would freeze them standing up. And that's the way they find mammoths. Woolly mammoths found standing up, frozen, food still in their teeth, still in their stomach, undigested.
Mm-hmm.
I did a whole study on that. I called Bird's Eye Frozen Food People. I said, how long would it take? I said, if I stuck an elephant in my freezer, what would happen? It was real quiet on the other end of the line. I'm thinking, no. The guy said, you'd have a crowded freezer. I know. He said, how long would it take to freeze an elephant? He said, about 5 days. 5 days, because the outside's going to freeze and trap the heat inside. Okay. I said, I got to freeze my elephant in 5 hours because the food's still fresh in his stomach. They said, well, you got to cut him up in pieces. I said, no. Whole elephant, got to freeze him in 5 hours. They said, you got to dip him in liquid nitrogen, 270 below zero, or whatever it is, 140, I forget. So I said, well, see, the super cold ice being dumped on the poles explains the ice age. It went sliding down to Illinois, plowing rocks ahead of it. When it melted back, they left rocks there called terminal moraines. You got them all over Michigan, moraines. Okay. When Noah gets off the ark, the ice caps are still huge. It would take 500 years for that ice to melt back to where it is today. Mm-hmm. Well, duh, if the ice caps are bigger, then the oceans are smaller because the water's frozen at the North Pole. If you took 200 feet of water out of the oceans right now, they average 12,000 feet deep. Take out 200 feet, freeze it, stick it at the North Pole. Then you could walk anywhere in the world. There's underwater land bridges. Like between Russia and Alaska, the Bering Strait is 60 miles wide. It's only about 60 or 80 feet deep. Lower the oceans 200 feet, the beach line goes way down to here. England and France would be connected if you lowered the water just, I think, 50 feet. The English Channel would dry up. England don't want to be part of France. I'm sure I can promise you. Okay. So Australia, one atheist said, how did the kangaroos get to Australia? Well, they hopped. That's how they get everywhere. Okay. Between Australia and Vietnam, all this in here, the Philippines and the Borneo and Sarawak and all these places, it's about 30 or 40 feet deep. Lower the oceans 200 feet. Australia is a peninsula of Asia. You could walk there. You can walk over from America up to Canada, over to England, just by lowering the ocean. So after the flood, the oceans were smaller, making the continents bigger. Just Google continental shelf. That was exposed. If the continental shelf was exposed by freezing 200 feet of water, sticking it on the poles, ice caps are bigger, oceans are smaller, continents are bigger, and you could walk anywhere for several hundred years. So the kangaroo, everything had plenty of time to migrate around, maybe 400 or 500 years to get where they're going.
Yeah.
Generational moves. And then the ice is melting and raising the ocean level. And all of a sudden, Australia is now an island. Well, a big one. But so I think that happened in the first few hundred years after the flood. People are all worried about global change, global warming, climate change. Why are they worried about climate change? Because if the ice caps melt, it'll raise the oceans and cover New York City. Great idea. I love it. Let's do it. Okay.
Especially with that new mayor.
Oh, gee. So, yeah, the level of the ocean is pure coincidence based upon, how far back this ice cap melts. People say, Hovind, do you think South America and Africa are ever connected? The Pangea theory. I said, they're still connected right now. They're still connected underwater, aren't they? What do you mean, were they connected? It's not, these aren't pieces floating around, they're continents that are part of a continental crust, and they're not moving around. They're moving a little bit, but so yeah, I cover all that. Video number 5. No, video number 6. Video 5 is the one they put me in prison for. Video 5 is about the flood. Where did the water come from, and then where did it go?
At the end, they put you in prison for a video. Did you say that?
Yep. Number 5. When they came and arrested my wife and I back in Pensacola, they said the SWAT team came in. They said, get every DVD number 5 you can find. They searched the house to get video number 5. Is called The Dangers of Evolution. This theory is not only stupid, it's dangerous. This evolution theory is the foundation philosophy behind Adolf Hitler. Why did he want to kill the Jews? Oh, they're inferior species. Hitler was a great lover of Darwin. If you want to see why they put me in prison, go back on all of our channels. They're all listed on drdino.com. I did an open letter to Donald Trump about February 1st of earlier this year. Here's what they charged me with. You see what they did to Donald Trump, all the stupid charges they tried to get him on. It's weaponized Justice Department. They charged me with 3 different crimes, none of which did I commit. Okay, I didn't commit it. They broke 100 laws to put me in prison. The U.S. attorney that had me arrested and had me finally, after 3 juries, they put me in prison. The judge said it was structuring, taking your money out of the bank. No crime at all, none. The judge said, Hovind, this crime you committed is worse than rape. I'm enhancing this to 10 years. Give me a 10-year federal prison sentence for structuring. I'd never heard of it, and it didn't break even that law. Okay, anyway, that's all on Open Letter to Donald Trump.
Did you do 10 years in prison?
I did 9 years in federal prison to get out 85%, Yep. While I was in, they moved me 32 times, hoping to kill me.
I had no idea. I knew that you had gotten something about taxes. I saw something about that, but I didn't really. I'm too busy watching all your really good clips online. I guess I should have paid closer attention.
I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, look at my monitor. There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
All the videos are on the drive. Okay. Real beef. What is that?
If he wants me to chat.
Look in the chat. He's putting up the.
Okay.
So we had a paralegal do 18 months research on my case. When he got done, he said, Kent, you did not break any laws. The government broke 100 laws to put you in prison. The U.S. attorney that finally he'd been investigating me for 5 years, trying to find something to shut me up. They didn't like what I said on video number 5. As soon as he got me in prison, as soon as I went to prison, he flew to Detroit to have sex with a 5-year-old, got off the plane with Vaseline and a doll, and they arrested him and he hung himself in jail.
Who was that?
John David Roy Atchison. Check it out. That's the guy putting me in prison for 9 years. John David Roy Atchison. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Pedophile.
That's it. Unbelievable.
It was an agent posing as a mother offering her 5-year-old for sex. And he said, she said, is this going to hurt my daughter? Oh, no. He said, I've done it plenty. Yeah.
Unreal. That's disgusting.
Anyway, the reason they don't like number 5, the founders of this country had a philosophy. They said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. They're endowed by their creator with certain rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. They believe rights come from the creator. Well, the New World Order folks, the one world government, the Democrats and communists, they want you to believe rights come from government. You have to get our permission to do things. Oh. So that's why they didn't want me, what I was preaching on number 5. This theory is not only stupid, it's dangerous. We teach the kids they're an animal and then wonder, boy, why are they acting like animals?
Yeah.
They're now telling the kids
my language now.
Well, they tell the kids there's 57 genders. Oh. I tell the atheists, look, if you think there's more than 2 genders, I will pay $50 to have you come milk our bull. I want to video you flying over the fence.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. Yeah, man. It's such corrupt. Golly, I don't know how it became this way. It's unbelievable. I tell you what happened is I think a lot of Christians were sleeping. I don't think that Christianity is as strong as it once was in the United States. And you see what happens when Christianity weakens, evil takes hold. That's my philosophy. We were all sleeping. Back to the topic, though. I mean, I could talk politics with you all night, but I know a lot of people want to hear some of your stuff. I wanted to ask you about Graham Hancock. Are you familiar with Graham Hancock?
Not very much. No, you'd have to tell me.
Okay. He has this theory about the Younger Dryas, which occurred 12,000, basically a little ice age that happened 12,000 years ago, and the fact that he believes there were advanced civilizations before the Younger Dryas period, whereas a lot of modern archaeologists, paleontologists, things like not paleontologists but scientists don't believe that civilization is as old as he does. But I think it's just interesting. Fingerprints of the Gods, Magicians of the Gods, America Before. I've read a lot of his books. It's a really interesting.
Okay, just based on what you've told me, I would completely disagree. Jesus said the creation of Adam was the beginning. Matthew 19:6. So is he calling Jesus a liar? The Bible says nothing died until Adam sinned. 1 Corinthians 15 to Romans 5. Man brought death into the world. God said in the 10 Commandments, he wrote it on a rock with his own finger, gave the rock to Moses. He said, I want you to work 6 days and rest 1 because I worked 6 days and rested 1. He says he created the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that in them is in 6 days. That eliminates anything before Adam. And we have the dates from Adam right in the Bible, Genesis 5. Adam, add the numbers up there, right there. So no, anybody says 12,000 or there's a pre-Adamic civilization, I think that's heresy. Tell him I said so. I'll debate him on the topic if you want. Yeah. People can believe that. They can believe they've got some evidence to back up a theory like that. I understand. But it's not scriptural. It's calling Jesus a liar. is causing the 10 Commandments a liar. There's probably 5 or 6 times in the Bible where God said, Exodus 20, Exodus 31, where it says he made everything in 6 days. Everything. That includes dinosaurs. That includes everything. So
you taught one of the questions since you just said that, the Bible says that death entered through sin, like you just said, but a lot of the fossils show things like cancer and arthritis, predator prey relationships, according to them, millions of years before Adam. So I guess they would say the animals were dying before the fall of man, but just kind of
they were dying. They were dying before they were fossilized.
Mm-hmm.
The fossilization took place at the time of the flood.
Mm-hmm.
What if all the fossils, of course, very rarely do fossils form today, okay? What if all the fossils formed in that flood? Well, if the flood, Noah was in the ark for a year, it might have taken 6 months to kill everything. The flood water might have come up, gone down, the crust of the earth being broken up would be flexing around. There might have been some people survived for 5-6 months outside before they finally drowned. So they'd all be running for higher ground, trying to escape the flood waters. Maybe that's why there's so many millions of dinosaur tracks all headed toward high ground. Yeah. Dinosaur track. And maybe the animals are buried a little bit based upon, sorting of their body density. I bet clams would be found at the bottom because they're heavier than birds. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nothing to do with evolution. Okay. Right. Maybe that's some of the animals were fighting each other over high ground. There's a little bitty spot left of high ground, Gilligan's Island, and there's a bunch of them fighting. They might have been fighting and biting each other. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think we'll have to watch the video in heaven. But I certainly wouldn't abandon the Bible over something like a problem like that. I think there are logical explanations. So, yeah.
I know I'm sorry, go ahead. You're continuing.
Well, the Bible says the water kept coming up for 150 days. That's 5 months. Mm. So many animals could have survived for months outside. Some could have survived on floating log mats for quite a while. I mean, eventually you're going to give out. But God waited over a year when Noah was in that ark.
Yeah. Do you think some people may have survived other than they, because one of his sons went off and married? So how did that happen?
Oh, no, nobody else survived. The Bible's very clear that only Noah and his family were alive as far as humans go. Uh-huh. Now, Noah's son Shem lived after the flood 500 years. That's the only one we have dates for is Shem. We don't know about the other two. Well, it says he lived 500 years and begat sons and daughters. Mm-hmm. How many kids could you have in 500 years? Yeah. One every 9 months and 30 minutes. Okay. So I think they had to marry cousins or sisters. Adam married his own rib, Yeah. Yeah. There was no genetic problem. The longer humans have gone, the more genetic defects we start accumulating. The DNA code is breaking down. And so now it's illegal in most states to marry closer than a first cousin. Mm-hmm. Because there's going to be genetic problems, okay? Charles Darwin married his first cousin, Emma Wedgwood. No, who else would marry the guy? He was a loser. The only degree he ever got was theology. He couldn't get a job anywhere. So his dad knew the guy running the Beagle, the ship. He said, "Would you take my son on board and feed him for 5 years? He can have him do something on the boat." So he took him on there as the ship's naturalist. He's going to go around and collect bugs and birds. The guy was a loser in every way. But he didn't marry his first cousin, Emma Wedgwood. And their kids had some serious problems with that. You can read about Darwin's.
You talk about Darwin, it reminded me of something. I know 25 years ago when I first started watching your Dr. Dino series, you talked about the fact that we had never seen a species created from another species. I was reading recently about the Darwin's finches. Are you familiar with them?
Oh, yeah.
Darwin finches. Yeah, and apparently not only the Darwins, there's a few insects. There's an Italian house sparrow that they now classify as a species that we've actually witnessed being created during our lifetimes. So I know that you used to say we'd never seen that. Has your opinion changed on that now? We have the Darwin finches.
The problem is the word species. Mm-hmm. When they get it, scientists, you can't become famous unless you find a new species. So they work really hard to make it a new species. Step 5 feet away and look at it. It's the same kind of animal. It's a bird. That doesn't prove birds are related to bananas. Uh-huh. They've got these stupid charts. They work so hard to say, we created a new species, a dog. Okay. They can no longer interbreed. Okay. It's still a dog. But they got these charts with everything being related, and this is pure propaganda. So with the Darwin's finches, all they did was get a type of a bird. The bird beak is the big thing on the Darwin's finches. Some islands out there where Darwin was, Galapagos Islands, some of those islands, the only thing they have to eat is nuts that are tough to crack.
Mm-hmm.
So only the birds with a big heavy beak like a parrot are able to crack them. They can't eat. Other birds, other islands have lots of insects. Well, there you got to have this long skinny beak. You don't need much. You don't need a big heavy beak. So the skinny beak birds survive better because of their diet. The island doesn't create that feature. The birds already have a genetic code to make a beak. They already have a code that's got some variety in it. You've got a variety in your genetic code. I bet if you could produce 20 children, they could all be different. They still humans. They'd still be human. You might get a redhead. Might have
a vestigious tail on one of them too.
Right. So the whole problem is, again, is that stupid word species. There's 26 definitions of the word species, and it's
that one. I was very curious about that one because when I read that, you were one of the first people I thought about because you had always said in your earlier seminars that we'd never seen species created. But that makes a lot of sense what you just said about science really trying as hard as they can to create a species so that I guess they can prove evolution, which I don't think they'll ever be able to do.
Go here. Let me slide.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me slide just for a second there, Joseph.
Yeah.
Here is.
Hold on. Let me switch you out here.
Large that here.
Let's see. There you go.
Let's see. What is a species? They say, well, it's a type or a kind. They get all upset about the Bible using the word kind. They use it to define the word species. Okay. Mm-hmm. Even National Geographic. They said the definition of species is difficult. Yeah. What is a kind or a sort? God said if they can bring forth, they're the same kind. A dog and a wolf can bring forth a puppy. A dog and a banana cannot.
Right. If they can bring forth offspring, that can also bring forth offspring. I think that's one of the criteria for a species. But one of the things I read was that the Darwin finches could no longer bear offspring with the birds that they were supposedly evolved from.
Right. Well, the Bible says they will bring forth after their kind. I bet the Chihuahuas and the Great Danes can't bring forth a puppy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They'd kill one of them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's a good point.
The word kind is perfectly fine. 20 times in the first 7 chapters, God said they'll bring forth after their kind, after their kind, after their kind, after their kind. It's all through the Bible. So the problem is that word species. Let's see. This guy said there have been 26, where is it at? 26 published definitions of the word species. The debate over species definition. What they created with Darwin's finches was another bird. Mm-hmm. Okay, that doesn't prove they're related to elephants. They're so desperate to find some kind of new species, they will stretch it and make, this fits, and that as if that brings the whole theory into, science. It's now science. Evolution is a religion. You have to believe in it. They show on the chart the birds coming from, an amoeba. Nobody's ever seen an amoeba produce anything other than a baby amoeba. That's all they do. But they say, no, the amoeba turned into whales. Well, how did the amoeba get the genetic information to make all the whale stuff,
Mm-hmm.
The eyes, the lungs, sure. the bones? Amoebas don't have any bones. So, yeah, I'll debate any atheist you can find on that. Please call them.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is entropy. I hear a lot about, physicists, supposedly things are supposed to go from order to chaos, not the other way around. You know what I mean? They'll go from chaos to order. Yeah.
We observe that happening. See, science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate.
Yeah.
We observe things falling apart. We do not observe random mutations or changes making anything get better.
Right.
Nothing. Right. It's not science. It's a religion, and they believe in it very strongly.
Right.
Congratulations. It's not science.
Yeah. You got, let me get your screen right here. I know you're short on time, but I wanted to ask you this one final question before we go, because I can really talk to you all night, but I know you don't have the time. I want to ask you this question for people who are watching and are Christian and may have some propensity because of their education or whatever to believe in evolution. If someone believes in evolution, if they become convinced that the earth is billions of years old, can they still get to heaven? Can they still go to heaven?
Absolutely, yeah.
Believe in it.
God's not willing that any should perish. You can believe lots of crazy stuff and still go to heaven, okay? You don't have to be right on everything, okay?
Yeah.
If so, nobody's going, okay?
Yeah.
But you are calling Jesus a liar.
Uh-huh.
Jesus said the creation of Adam was the beginning.
Mm.
Matthew 19:4, Mark 10:6. Read it in your Bible. So if you want to call Jesus a liar, that's your business. I don't want to do that, okay? The Bible made it clear that
Are we supposed to believeth in him that have everlasting life? That's why I'm conflicted here. I don't believe in evolution. I'm just saying for those who may.
well, see, the Bible says man brought death into the world. Evolution says death brought man into the world. See, in order for us to be here, billions of things had to die that were not quite fully, they weren't the superior species. Look at the name of Darwin's book, The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Favored races.
Yeah.
Darwin was a racist. He thought Negroes were advanced animals. Okay. There's a lot. I covered that on video number 5. Again, why they put me in prison. Go see February 1st. Open letter to Donald Trump on all my channels, Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. There are links.
What year was that you went to prison?
I went to prison in 2016. I just got out 9 years ago.
Wow, so you were sort of the original, social media ban.
I guess.
Yeah. Before it all kicked off on social media, they were trying to get rid of you for your views.
Well, the atheists call me the most hated man on the internet. Thank you. I'm proud of that title.
Were you gearing up another slide? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay.
Put up a slide. If people want to get a hold of me, here's how they do it.
Let's do that. I'll
upper left corner, drdino.com. That's our website. There's a lot of stuff. Our phone number, 855-BIG-DINO. If you want to talk to me, hit that number and call extension 3. I get calls all day and half. I shut off the phone finally. Have you ever seen my daughter's wedding on America's Funniest Home Videos?
No.
My daughter was one of my secretaries in Pensacola. She said, Dad, would you do my wedding? I said, honey, I'd be honored. It's 1 minute long. It's been played 50 times on America's Funniest Home Videos.
Really?
Type in Kent Hovind's daughter's wedding. And you get 50 seconds.
Yeah, I'll do that. I had no idea. That's great. That's cool information. I want to thank you so much for taking the time. It's really been a dream of mine to talk to you for all these years, because I have watched you. I'm not just saying that. I had your videos. Since before social media and all that kind of stuff, and I watch your clips all the time. So I really love what you do. I think a lot of you, and I thank you for everything you're doing for Christians and for God.
Well, better yet, why don't you come visit Dinosaur Adventureland? We're in Lenox, Alabama, straight north of Pensacola, Florida, about 70 miles. Lenox is only 30 people. Good luck finding that on a map. Just type in Dinosaur Adventureland. You'll find us.
I would love to do it. Thank you so much.
And
I appreciate
the only problem besides the well water, though, your babies be born naked. Our cook continually serves iced tea, and I have warned her. Tea is dangerous. Iced tea. There was an Indian one time that this Indian drank 4 gallons of iced tea. That night he drowned in his teepee. I taught high schoolers for 15 years.
God.
It messed up my brain. Okay.
Oh, that's like the ultimate dad joke, but it was a funny one. Okay. Man, that was good. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's do it again sometime. We'll come up with some more topics and maybe go through some more of your videos and do it again. Good luck on your next show, and take care of yourself. Pleasure.
Thank you, brother. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow, what a great man. I just love his stuff. If you haven't checked him out, go to his website, watch those DVDs. I'm telling you, I've seen them all. You will be fascinated how he debunks evolution. It's really amazing. He can't really talk about everything in a 7 series video, or however many videos are in his series in this 1 hour time, but he's absolutely fantastic. And I need you show your kids, show everyone because he's really great at debunking atheists and people who believe in evolution. But here we are again at the end of another show, and I really appreciate you all watching. I'll see you next time. I'm Don Keith. You've been watching The Real Beef.
The Real Beef.